Hey guys, Deb the Awesome here to give you a team race guide slash review video where we go over how to do a race and we review the current content rewards for said race. Now races have changed over the bit of a few months, and now that all the team can get the race monster pretty much, which is really good for the game as a whole. Like back in the day, only one like the only the first place team would get the team race monster. It is very good now that everyone is every team is entitled to get the team race monster because it's good for team war competitive play because it's on kind of all the same field. No, like every team has a chance to get the rank 3 monster for that race, and so war won't be that bad. uh, and it's really good. It's really good. These are the kind of the events where you save up your gems for it. Basically, uh, if everyone pitches in at least 200 gems per race, at the bareback minimum, it is worth. It is not only is it worth it, it is also fair because everyone's getting a ranked up monster out of the deal. Uh, so races are just been getting better and better. It is a gem fest pretty much. These events are pretty much heavy on gems. That's basically what they are. But if everyone pitches in and you get a monster out of it, it's really good. So how do you do these? These work as, like, again, progression islands. You do tasks uh, based on what it wants you to do. This could be from crafting runes, breeding, collecting gold, and so forth. Wait, oh, what do you use that 200 gems for? I said you should always, like, every person should pitch in at least 200, as fair as square, and efficient, all that jazz. You use the 200 gems to skip the one for all breeding epics. These quests are just like a no-brainer that you have to skip them. Uh, it's not a good idea. I mean, it's not a good idea to not to do that. Because it's pretty much impossible. Because due to breeding time and hatching time, you just can't get epic breeding done all too well. So it's always skipped, and it usually costs around 200 gems. So always save your gems to skip those. Don't bomb your gems on anything else. Uh, some quests give more points than others. Specifically, the joint effort. If one person were to do it themselves, they actually get a hefty amount of points. I'd say 1,000 plus at the very least. So they're really good. So keep an eye out for those. Those get really good points. If you're on a team that requires, like, at least a 5k minimum, these quests are recommended to do them. I'm not saying don't do anything else afterwards. I'm saying do the joint efforts. Like 15 members need to do these quests. These 15-member quests. We're currently on one right now. It just means, like, if your team is restrictive, it's you have to get at least 5k points. Do these quests, these joint effort quests, ask to do them, what have you, and or just say I did it if you did, but don't do them if you're like 15k. That we've had quite a few people that have done these and they're fine on points. If your team has a 5k requirement and you're way over 5k, you don't need them. You don't need these quests. You don't need the joint effort quests. These races do last a long time, so there's no real rush. It's like if your defense statement is, "Oh, but we have to get the monster soon. We shouldn't." Oh, you gotta let people get points. It's like 4 days. I mean, like 4 days. Well, in total, it's like 8 to 7. So there's no rush. There's no defensive. If you're already ahead, there's no defensive you taking those huge points from players that need it. But yeah, it's the quests vary from again, collecting gold, feeding, collecting food. What are some good tips for ranking and or breeding? I highly recommend breeding a Firesaur and a Charizard. So get like these are two common monsters in the game that you can get at the shop for dirt gold. It's cheap, and you use them to breed the uncommon and rare monster, which is the rare monster is Pandakin and the uncommon's Greensour. You breed them, and you always have like some slots available for them to do things. I actually can't do mine at the moment because I accidentally filled mine up, so I gotta wait 2 hours to do that. I might actually skip that. Oh, I might not because that's 5 gems. But yeah, you use that, and then you go over to the ranking and extracting, and they should only take only a few seconds to get done. So what you do is you get the monster, you get the Greensour. Let's say you got a Greensour, go over to extract that instantly. Don't level it up at all, or else it takes longer. And then you can. I don't know why this is leveled up, but it is, so I have to sell that. I'm not gonna sell it right now, but I will. And then you rank it up, and then you do as much, and then you repeat the process to, well, once you have enough cells, then you start ranking up. But then once you've ranked up the monster, extract it, repeat the process, get monster, rank up, extract, get another one, so forth until you complete the quota, which is usually 5 ranked up monsters. Sometimes it's 2 players rank up 1 monster, but for the most part it's 5s. This is an event where you have to constantly keep looking back at the quest. As annoying as that is, it's just something you have to do. Let's say you're a really, really busy person, like you have work, you have school, and you have like a day off one of these days during a race. You just have to kind of sit down and wait. I recommend doing something you enjoy while you're waiting. So while I'm usually waiting, I usually do team race streams. I did one actually last night, which was a lot of fun. Other things I'd probably do is, well, if I wanted to play some mobile games, I would play another mobile game maybe, or just another game in general, if I'm not streaming that day. Or like if I'm not streaming, so if I'm not streaming the team race, I'll just wind up playing, a game, like a video game. Not like on my mobile, I guess. That would be on my gaming systems. Just other important tasks. Like just anything that you do, like that you were gonna get done, like side work, side work. So whatever this is like, in all honesty, sitting here waiting is boring because there's always just one more person that needs to get on and they're not on yet. So you have to do something to, because you can't do anything at the moment. You have to kind of wait for something. This is kind of a problem with races because there's a lot of quests that hold inconsistency because either a lot of people have ran out of attacks, or it's a waiting thing, like runes. Like, let's say, well, I guess that doesn't matter. People usually skip that. But there's usually a wait on something. Something's always waiting. There's always a wait on something. But that's just how that goes. You can gem the weights pretty much for crafting runes, but like for PvP, you can do okay. This is a recommendation. There's a lot of PvP nodes, or PvP quests, I should say, in the team races nowadays. So the best way to do that is usually just gem the fights. What you will usually do is go over here, and if you run out of PvP, I am not out of PvP at the moment, but if I was out of PvP, I would spend the 5 gems. Like, it's 5 gems. I can't remember if it was 5 gems per. No, it's 5 gems per attack. Yeah. So every 3 PvPs is like 15 gems. Don't skip the quest. Always do the PvP fights. But Dib, what if I run out of enemies to beat? Well, I highly recommend having a defense of literally nothing, and for some reason my defense is something. So Here, one second, we'll just put commons here. It's recommended to have a common defense during this time. You shouldn't worry about like your PvP seasonal rewards during races. You just shouldn't. Because the ranked up monster outweighs the seasonal rewards easily. That and it just helps you win battles more. You get more PvP fights to win. Need one gold collect. True. 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 You could say it's there. You could say it's one person's golden opportunity. You could say it's a one person's golden opportunity to do so, to do so, to do so, to do so. I hope Armor sees that. Guy, like Armor enjoys the good pun / joke. But anywho, let's. I do believe I've kind of covered everything about races. Let's talk about the next thing on the agenda, the monsters. What do you actually get for doing this race in particular? Let's review the contents. There's 3 monsters for the race, and I think that's just the given for all races from now on. But the first monster on this is Mekarasu. This is an epic ninja bird. Not too good of an epic monster, personally speaking. I do believe it's specialized in single target damage. It had an instant kill for a ult, I believe. But you just don't really need it. It might be used in a breeding event in the future, possibly, but you just don't need it. It's easily overweighed or outweighed by the other 2 monsters in the event, so don't bother with it. I recommend going over 4 personally. Next on the list is Teskada. If you can only get 8 laps in this event done, Teskada is a decent reward. So what Teskada does is she excels at evasion and buffing herself. I do believe she had a evasion buff that also gave her double damage, which is pretty good. She's also in 3 books, all of which are well except the winter book. I actually don't see this one too much. I don't I don't think I've actually seen this one. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a winter warrior yet. I personally haven't seen one. So 2 of her 3 books are useful in the sense because mechanical and female seem to be pretty consistent war. I don't think I see winter all too much. It's very it's very rare to see a winter war. I don't see that too much. But her moves in general are really good for a damage dealer. I think she's Taiga done right because with Taiga's camouflage, it's a different kind of evasion. Taiga gets camouflage, which only dodges like damage. It doesn't dodge effects, which bothers me immensely. Teskada here has evasion, so she dodges everything. So it ensures that she gets her turn in, which is really good. That's pretty good. But yeah, that's the main selling point of this monster is the fact she can evasion and get double damage set up. This just lets her burst damage, and it's relatively good. It's also immune to freeze, if I recall fondly. So it's really good in wars where people kind of just use freezers. It's really relatively nice. It might be a good for Cryotan matchups, I will say, because of the evasion. Like if she goes before Cryotan, she can evade and not be bothered by that Mega Freeze and probably kill with that double damage. She has a really strong Thunder-based skill. She'll Oko Cryotan, possibly. It depends on what he goes for. If he goes for the self buff, then probably he won't be Okoing it, but you know, it's whatever. This is a pretty decent like reward if your team only gets 8 laps. Pretty decent, pretty cool. Uh, what's the last monster? The last monster is the lovable tame race monster, and I gotta say its its baby form is kind of it's kind of weird. It looks weird. It's weird. It's not even it's not the good kind of weird. It's just weird. You like it's just oh God, that's weird. That's awkward weird. That's awkward weird. It's weird. Weird. This is actually a really cool in terms of design. This monster is really cool. It also has it has an interesting new concept called nanovirus. This thing is the very first monster in Monster Legends that causes nanovirus. What is nanovirus, you ask? Nanovirus is a debuff that takes 10% of your life per turn, and it prevents you from getting any good effects. If you have nanovirus, you can't have any good effects. On paper, this seems really, really, really good. That's because it is really good. You really thought, oh, I was like, on paper, that's like, I thought I was probably going to say something bad about it. No, it's actually really good. The only time I would say it's not good is if the effects were removed. I think if there's a monster that has a buff that removes all negative effects, then buffs, then it doesn't really do you all too good. My kind of thinking about it, like sure you block the positive effects, but does it block if it removes the effect first? That's a true question you gotta ask yourself there. It's a very important thing. Does removing positive effects and applying buffs moves still get the buff even while they had nanovirus on them? I think that's critical. If it still lasts, then that is pretty nice. That does its purpose, and he can just reapply it. It's no big deal. But if it does work like that, if moves that remove negative effects first and then apply the positive effects, still activate like the positive effects activate, then that can be pretty huge. There are quite a few monsters that do that remove negative effects and then buff. So I wonder how that interaction goes. It probably works just like what I just said, but we'll see. But this is still really good. This nanovirus debuff is still really, really good because there's a lot of top tier monsters. He actually outruns, even when, like, if you're running team speed and or speed, his speed is like 3,500 and I think it was like 31 or 37. It's really fast. It is an astronomically fast monster, and he'll be able to outpace monsters with his same team, if they're like same rank, same team speed setup, which is really good. If you're running full team speed, then he'll be able to go over monsters running the same build at the same rank, which I think is pretty good. That's really, really good. He pretty much goes over like the majority of buffers in the game. Like, depending on what build they go, if they go full speed, he might be able to go over them, or for sure go over them. 3,531 is just an astronomically high speed. He for sure goes over Gokora, which I think if you do run him full speed, that's his hugest good matchup, because he can apply the effect and Gokora can't get his evasion, he can't get his fearless buff. He can't get all the immunities to all the common deny in the game to his allies. That's really, really huge. Like defenses that rely on that, it's really, really, really huge. Now, I will say the hugest problem of this monster is the fact he doesn't have an AoE nanovirus that removes positive effects that then applies it. He doesn't have that. I'm wondering if he applies it, like if he applies nanovirus, it actually cleans the positive effects. I am interested in knowing that. If it does work like that, then that's pretty good. If it's kind of like because there wasn't I didn't see a skill that removed positive effects, but then kind of thinking about it, if you have nanovirus on, doesn't that mean all the effects are canceled? I think that's huge. I think that's something worth looking into once you get this monster. See if nanovirus removes positive effects naturally or just blocks it, period. Like they don't get it at all. I think that's huge. If it works like that, that's really good. That's astronomically good. Other than nanovirus, what does this guy really do? What would be the advantage of running him full speed dip? He has a single target total blind, so he can pretty much troll the enemy denier. And if you're running monsters, like if your other two monsters are faster than the enemy's two monsters, then you've basically denied them. Like, just because it's not an AoE total blind doesn't mean it's doesn't necessarily mean you can't run them as a denier. Because essentially all that really means is you just total blind their enemy denier, and then your second monster goes. Like, that's how you kind of pull it off. So if you're actually running a Patient Cyber and a denier, you could just do that. Of course, that total blind is totally, like, it's all dependent on that total blind landing. You have to land that total blind on the enemy denier, or it's just not going to do you any good. But most part you can do is the total blind, and then have your, like, if you're running a denier, then your denier can go and AoE deny. If you're running, like, an attacker that can kind of fend for themselves, like, they don't really need any buffer setup, then that'd be recommended. In all honesty, there's a lot of ways you can run this monster. It's a really fun monster, and it can be a really creative monster, too. Given the right rune setup. Or just be creative with it. It seems like a really interesting monster. It also has an AoE blind, not total blind. But it has an AoE blind, and it has an AoE mass damage reduction. So you can pretty much prevent damage from happening to your team, which is pretty good. I don't think the mass damage reduction lasts for too long, or total damage reduction. I think it only lasts like a turn, like as usual. Which isn't bad, but if you already have them denied to begin with, then it's kind of pointless. But no, that can save your skin at some point. That massive total damage reduction. Let's say you missed a deny, but they have the damage reduction on him. That's pretty useful. That's that's pretty good. That's astronomically good, because then you won't take any damage from that damage dealer. That only really applies to the damage dealer with that total damage reduction. You're not really worried about support damage. You're not really worried about denier damage because they don't run damage. You're mostly worried about the main monster's damage. What else does he do? I think he has he actually has a nanovirus skill that procs twice. So it's a guaranteed nanovirus pretty much on a single monster. I don't know how worth it is to run that, but it seems pretty interesting. It does, again, he has a pretty interesting things up his sleeve. He's a relatively new monster. I encourage to mess around with it. We were talking about rune builds last night with some of my viewers. Life into team speed, full team speed. I'm interested in seeing a full speed build for this monster. Because now that I kind of thinking about it, like with that single target total blind, all you have to do really is run your denier at that point, and you're solid. No, that doesn't seem like a bad idea because it's it's a really fast monster. So if you land that total blind, then that's really good. But that's astronomically good. Because if you total blind the first monster, then you can just deny with the second monster. You can just bring it like an actual denier. So I guess it just kind of depends at that point. Is like if you're running a denier with full team speed, how good is it over the enemy monster? This is kind of something you gotta think about. But I think the most common build for this man is full team speed. It seems really support oriented. Because it is. It's very, very support oriented. It can be a really stally monster too. Oh good, another thing's up. First member to rank 4 monsters win. Or the quest. 15 members must collect food. We gotta breed rares. I gotta do all that. So I think that's pretty much everything with Patient Zero, if I'm not mistaken. Was there anything else about him? Final thoughts on him. I think it's a really interesting monster. He looks really cool. like astronomically cool. uh, I wish his trait like prevented himself from getting the nanovirus. That would be neat. I think that would be very, very, very neat. If I did do that. What are the counters for it? I do believe his cooldowns were, well, they weren't too heavy. They're pretty much normal, like 2 to 3. I'd say 2 to 3 cooldowns. At most. He didn't. I don't think he had like a 4-turn cooldown, except for his like twice hitting skill, I believe. Uh, but overall, it's pretty good. I'm excited. I'm excited to actually get him. It seems like a really fun monster to use. I'll mess around with it, see what's fun, what's not fun with it, all that jazz. But yeah, that's it. I'm Dib the Awesome, and I hope you guys have an awesome day. If you have any more questions, please list them in the comment section below. Words lisp. Comments section below. Yeah. Yep. That's it. I'm Dib the Awesome. Catch you guys later.